Part 2. The tree was about 30 feet from our fire. We walked over and took a good look at it for the first time. My dogs, seeing that we were finally going to pay some attention to them, started bawling and running around the tree. Papa said, "It's not much of a tree, just an old box elder snag. There's not a limb on it." "I can't see any coon," said the judge. "It must be hollow." Papa beat on the side with the axe. It gave forth a loud booming sound. He said, "It's hollow, all right." He stepped back a few steps, scraped his feet on the slick ground for good footing, and said, "Stand back and hold those hounds. I'm going to cut it down. We need some wood for our fire anyway." Squatting down between the dogs, I held onto their collars. Papa notched the old snag so it would fall away from the fire. As the heavy axe chewed its way into the tree, it began to lean and crack. Papa stopped chopping. He said to the judge, "Come on and help me. I think we can push it over now." After much grunting and pushing, snapping and popping, it fell loose. It fell. I turned my dogs loose. On hitting the ground, the snag split and broke up. Goggle-eyed, I stood rooted in my tracks and watched 3 big coons roll out of the busted old trunk. One started up the washout, running between us and the fire. Old Dan caught him and the fight was on. The second coon headed down the washout. Little Ann caught him. Hearing a loud yell from Grandpa, I looked that way. Old Dan and the coon were fighting close to his feet. He was yelling and beating at him with his hat. The judge and Papa ran to help. The third coon just started climbing up the steep bank close to me. Just before reaching the top, his claws slipped in the icy mud. Tumbling end over end, down he came. I grabbed up a stick and threw it at him. Growling and showing his teeth, he started for me. I threw the fight to him then and there. Some 10 yards away, I looked back. He was climbing the bank. That time he made it and disappeared in the thick cane. Hearing a squall of pain from little Ann, I turned. The coon was really working her over. He had climbed up on her back and was tearing and slashing. She couldn't shake him off. Grabbing a club from the ground, I ran to help her. Before we had killed our coon, old Dan came tearing in. We stood and watched the fight. When the coon was dead, Papa picked it up and we walked back to the fire. "How many coons were in that old snag?" Papa asked. "I saw 3, I said. The one that got away climbed out over there." I pointed in the direction the coon had taken. I never should have pointed. My dogs turned as one, started bawling and clawing their way up the steep bank. I shouted and scolded, but to no avail. They disappeared and the rattling came. We stood still, listening to their voices. The sound died away in the roaring storm. Sitting down close to the fire, I buried my face in my arms and cried. I heard the judge say to my father, "This beats anything I've ever seen. Why, those dogs can read that boy's mind. He just pointed at that bank and away they went. I never saw anything like it. I can't understand some of the things they've done tonight. Hounds usually aren't that smart. If they were collies or some other breed of dog, it would be different. But they're just red-bone hounds, hunting dogs." Papa said, "Yes, I know what you mean. I've seen them do things that I couldn't understand. I've never heard of hounds that had any affection for anyone. But these dogs are different. Did you know that they won't hunt with anyone but him? Not even me?" Hearing my grandfather call my name, I went over and sat down by his side. Putting his arm around me, he said, Now I wouldn't worry about those dogs. They'll be all right. It's not long till daylight. Then you can go to them." I said, "Yes, but what if the coon crosses the river? My dogs will follow him. If they get wet, they could freeze to death." "We'll just have to wait and hope for the best," he said. "Now straighten up and quit that snuffing. Act like a coon hunter. You don't see me bawling, and this old foot is paining me something awful." I felt better after my talk with Grandpa. "Come on, let's skin these coons," Papa said. I got up to help him. After the skins were peeled from the carcasses, I had an idea. Holding one up close to the fire until it was warm, I took it over and wrapped it around Grandpa's foot. Chuckling, he said, "Boy, that feels good. Heat another skin the same way." I kept it up for the rest of the night.